The halls of the Crystal Palace on Orcs 3 gleamed with soft morning light as Princess Araya ran along the marble corridor. She was only 8 cycles old, but her silver hair and violet eyes marked her as the last heir of Orcs. Today was her coronation day, when she would wear the ancient circlet of her ancestors and promise to guide her people. She did not know that danger was already closing in around her world. High above Orcs 3, a fleet of black raider ships slipped through the planet's defenses. These marauders had no mercy for royalty or commoner. They cared only for profit and power. Their leader, a pirate lord named Sovak, had learned of the princess's lineage and planned to use her as a bargaining chip. When the raiders broke through the shields, alarms blared across the palace. Araya froze, her small hands pressed against her chest as she watched palace guards rush past. Weapons drawn. In the throne room, King Talon and Queen Marana gathered their closest advisors. The air was thick with tension. Sirion, the captain of the guard, knelt before the royal couple. "My king, my queen," he said, his voice steady. "We cannot hold them off for long." The raider ships attacked in waves, unleashing shock beams that cracked the palace walls. The royal couple exchanged a glance. They knew their duty, protect their people, and the Princess. Sirion led a small group of guards through hidden passages to escort Araya to safety. Araya clung to his armored leg, her tiny fingers trembling. "Sirion, why is there noise?" she whispered. Sirion knelt and looked into her eyes. "Princess, our world is under attack. You must be brave. I will keep you safe." He lifted her gently and carried her through winding corridors that only the royal family knew. Outside, the palace grounds were in chaos. Families fled as raider drones swooped overhead. Pillars of smoke rose from burning gardens. Servants and soldiers alike scrambled to find shelter. Sirion emerged into the night air and headed toward the secret teleport chamber beneath the East Tower. There, Queen Marana's envoy waited with the teleport crystal. The crystal shimmered with green energy, ready to send Araya far from the danger. Sirion placed Araya before the crystal. A thunderous crash echoed through the chamber. Sovak's raiders had found the hidden entrance. The doors splintered under the force of heavy blaster fire. Sirion drew his blade and stood between the princess and the intruders. Araya backed away, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Sirion, I am scared," she said softly. Sirion bowed his head. "I know, princess, but this is our only chance." Sirion activated the teleport crystal. A bright light enveloped him and Araya. For a moment, they hovered between worlds. Araya felt weightless, as if she floated among the stars. Then, with a soft pop, they reappeared on a remote moon called Vent. The air was thin and cold. Strange purple plants glowed on the ground. Sirion looked around, then gently set Araya on her feet. "We are safe for now," he said. Araya rubbed her arms to warm herself. She looked at the empty field around her. "Where is my home?" she asked, her voice breaking. Sirion knelt beside her. "Your home is far away, princess. We will find a way back, but first, we must rest." He spread his cloak on the rocky ground and covered Araya. She closed her eyes, exhausted from fear and the teleport journey. Meanwhile, back on Orcs 3, Sovak stormed into the teleport chamber. He saw only the teleport crystal, still glowing faintly. His dark eyes narrowed. "They escaped," he growled. "But the princess is mine. I will track them to the ends of the galaxy." He ordered his raiders to gather teleport readings. Vendrix was a lonely place, but it was not hidden. Any skilled tracker could find the crystal's trail. In the cold moonlight, Sirion and Araya huddled together. Sirion focused on calming the princess. "Araya, can you tell me your favorite memory?" he asked gently. Araya thought of the crystal lake outside the palace gates. She remembered the laughter of her friends and the feeling of cool water on her skin. "I remember the lake," she said, "and the singing reeds." Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. Sirion smiled. "Good. Hold on to that, princess. Your memories will guide you home." As Araya drifted into a restless sleep, Sirion scanned the horizon. He knew Vendrix was ruled by slavers and outlaws. He could not stay here long. He would need help. He would need allies. Above them, the stars shone cold and distant, but Sirion vowed to protect Araya with his life, for in her innocence, there lay the future of an entire world. And even on this lonely moon, hope would not fade. That the pale light of Vendrix's twin moons cast long shadows as Sirion and Araya packed their few belongings. Sirion had decided to move toward the only known settlement on this cold world, the outpost of Broken Dreams. The outpost was a small cluster of ramshackle huts built from discarded ship parts. It lay to the east, across a rocky plain where deadly nocturnal beasts hunted in packs. Sirian lifted Araya onto his broad shoulders so she would not stumble. On the jagged stones, Araya wrapped her arms around his neck and whispered, "I trust you, Sirian." He smiled and pressed a gentle kiss to her hair. "We will find friends there," he said. They walked for hours through the biting wind. Araya shivered in her lightweight gown. Sirian offered his cloak, but the fabric was thin. He told stories of Orcs 3's warm gardens and taught Arya to hum her favorite lullaby. The song steadied her heart. When hunger and cold pressed in, Sirian pressed a small ration bar into her hand. She tasted the strange flavor of Vendrick's grain and swallowed. "I am hungry," she said. "I know, princess," he answered. "Rest now, I will keep watch." Araya closed her eyes, leaning against him as he stood guard. In the morning they reached the edge of a vast dark forest. The trees had black trunks and twisted branches that blocked much of the pale light. Sirian held Araya's hand as they entered. The forest floor was soft with purple moss. Strange sounds echoed around them, rustling leaves, distant roars. Araya paused. "Sirian, I am afraid." He knelt and looked into her eyes. "Your fear is brave, princess. Fear tells us what we must face." He took a deep breath and led her onward. Together they pressed through the moss until they found a small clearing where pale blue flowers glowed faintly in the shadow. There Sirian spotted fresh footprints. They were too large for a human, but they matched his own gait. Sirian frowned. "Someone passed here not long ago," he said. Araya knelt and traced the prints with her finger. "They went this way," she said softly. Sirian nodded. He steadied himself and followed. Araya hopped down and walked beside him. Despite her weariness, her eyes shone with curiosity. She picked a glowing petal and tucked it into her hair. Sirian smiled at her courage. Before long, they reached the outpost of Broken Dreams. Smoke curled from chimneys made of scrap metal. Figures moved behind grated windows. Sirian set Araya down and scanned the buildings. Armed guards patrolled the area, their weapons slung at their sides. These men and women were former slaves, freed by smugglers or rebels. Sirian approached the nearest guard, holding Araya's hand. The guard raised an eyebrow. "Who are you?" she asked in a rough voice. Sirian bowed. "I am Sirian of Orcs 3. This is Princess Araya. We seek shelter and aid." The guard studied them both, then nodded. "Come inside. But stay quiet." He led them to a battered door. Inside, the outpost was warm but crowded. Bodies huddled around small hearths. The smell of spicy stew filled the air. Araya's eyes grew wide at the sight of so many people. She clung to Sirian's arm. "What is this place?" she whispered. Sirian spoke softly. "This is a refuge for those who flee slavery." He turned to the guard. "May we speak to your leader?" The guard nodded and pointed to a tall woman at the far end of the hall. She had still gray hair and scars across her face when she spoke. Her voice was calm but firm. "I am Fenra." Sirian bowed again. "Your outpost is a haven for the lost. Princess Araya needs help to return home." Fenra's eyes softened. When she saw Araya's trembling form, Fenra ordered a blanket for Araya and a bowl of stew. Araya sat beside the fire, sipping the broth. Each spoonful warmed her from the inside. She looked around at the other refugees. Some had alien features, some human. All wore tired faces. Araya felt her small heart ache for their pain. She rose and moved among them, offering a shy smile. One child reached out and took her hand. Araya knelt and spoke gentle words, though she did not know their language. The child giggled and pointed to the glowing flowers in Araya's hair. Araya tucked another petal behind the child's ear. Laughter spread around the hall. Later, Sirian and Fenra spoke in hushed tones. Sirian explained the danger Sorvak posed, and the need for safe passage off Fenra listened, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she stood. "We will help the princess," she said. "But Sorvak's trackers are close. We must move under the cover of the storm that comes in 2 cycles. Sirian bowed deeply. "Thank you." He laid a hand on Araya's shoulder. "Princess, we have friends here." Araya smiled through her tears. "I am not alone." Sirian felt hope bloom in his chest. As Sirian and Araya prepared to leave the next night, Araya paused at the hall's entrance. She looked at the faces of those who had suffered. She said softly, "One day I will free them all." Sirian wrapped his cloak around her. "And I will stand with you, princess." The wind howled outside, and the first flakes of a purple storm began to fall. Vendrick's storm would cover their escape. Together they stepped into the night, D in hand, ready for the journey that lay ahead. The storm raged around them as Sirian, Araya, and Fenra crept through the broken valley toward the hidden docking bay. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground like teeth, and fierce winds drove purple hail into their faces. Araya pressed her cloak tighter, her small frame shivering. Fenra lifted her gently. "Almost there," she said. Sirian scanned the skies for patrol drones. Each gust of wind felt like a warning. They had little time before Sorvak's trackers closed in at the valley's end. A battered freighter waited beneath a natural rock arch. Its hull was patched in places, and yellow landing lights flickered. In the dark, Sirian recognized the craft from distant reports, the starliner Nightingale, captained by a human named Cal Davis. Rumors said Cal traded in forgotten relics and sometimes helped those in need for the right price. Fenra signaled the group to stay low as she approached the freight hatch. Inside the freighter's hold, crates of scrap metal and alien artifacts lay stacked. The air smelled of oil and dust. A lone figure stood near the control panel, studying a holomap. Cal Davis was tall and lean, with dark hair and sharp green eyes. His pilot uniform was worn, and a faded insignia marked him as once served in the Galactic Merchant Fleet. He hadn't noticed his silent visitors. Fenra cleared her throat. Cal spun around, hand on his blaster, surprised. "Who are you?" he demanded. Fenra held up her hands. "We mean no harm. Princess Araya needs safe passage off Vendrix." Cal's eyes flicked to Araya, as Sirian and Fenra eased her away from the hatch. Araya looked small beneath the freighter's bulk. Her silver hair caught the yellow light. Cal's jaw tightened. "The slavers will pay a fortune for her. Why help her?" Fenra stepped forward. "Because freedom is worth more than any price." Cal hesitated, then lowered his gun. He studied Araya's wide eyes and gentle face. Something in her royal bearing reached him. He relented. "Fine," he said. "But you'll owe me." Sirian bowed. "We will repay your kindness." Cal nodded, then turned to the controls. "Get inside. We lift off in 30 cycles." Sirian carried Araya into the hold, and Fenra followed. The freighter's engines hummed as Cal prepared for launch. As the hatch sealed, Sirian crouched beside Araya. "You're safe now," he whispered. Araya looked at Cal, then back at Sirian. "Thank you," she said softly. Cal offered a small smile. "I just can't let a princess freeze to death." The Nightingale rose from the valley floor with a roar. Outside, the storm's purple hail shattered against the hull as they climbed through the clouds. Minutes later, the freighter broke into the thin high atmosphere. Araya pressed her face to the small viewport. Below Vendrix's surface was a blur of storms and ruins. Above, stars pierced the darkness. Her heart pounded with wonder and relief. Sirian let her stand on a crate so she could see better. Fenra secured the hatch behind them, her expression determined. Cal adjusted the course toward a safer route through the meteor belt. Sorvak's trackers would soon discover the empty docking bay, but by then, the Nightingale would be too far. Inside the ship, Cal offered Araya a warm blanket and a cup of sweet tea. She accepted with a grateful smile. Fenra and Sirian watched from the shadows, relief in their eyes. The journey still held danger warp storms, slaver warships, and more unknown perils. But for this moment, under Cal's care, the princess tasted hope. As the Nightingale slipped into hyperspace, Araya closed her eyes, clutching the blanket. She imagined home, her crystal palace, her people waiting. She dreamed of the day she would return and free those still in chains. Cal glanced at her through the freighter's dim light. He saw courage in her gentle face. "We'll get you home, princess," he promised. Sirian and Fenra nodded. Together they would face whatever lay ahead. HFY freighter Nightingale sailed through quiet space, its engines humming a steady rhythm. Inside the hold, Princess Araya sat on a padded crate, her soft blanket wrapped around her small shoulders. Sirian stood nearby, polishing his blade, while Fenra checked the ship's scanners. Cal Davis leaned against the control panel, one boot resting on a loose panel cover. The light from the viewports painted their faces silver as distant stars drifted by. For a moment they all felt the calm after a storm. Araya traced patterns on the blanket and thought of Orcs 3's crystal gardens. She missed the gentle sound of water lapping against the marble shore. Yet here, among strangers, she felt a growing warmth of friendship. Cal tapped the nav console. "We'll drop out of hyperspace near the Lycos gate," he said. His voice was low but confident. "From there we follow smuggler lanes to avoid slaver patrols." Araya looked up, curiosity bright in her violet eyes. "What is a smuggler lane?" she asked. Sirian smiled. "Secret routes between stars. Only those who know them can travel safely," Fenra added. We will be ghosts to our hunters. Araya nodded. Though she was young, she understood danger and hope entwined. She practiced breathing slowly, as Sirian had taught her, to steady her racing heart. Nearby, Cal studied a holochart of nearby systems. Every line and beacon told him where to hide and where to run. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights pulsed across the hold as Fenra rushed to the scanners. Incoming, she shouted. Sirian drew his blade once more, and Cal sprinted to the pilot seat. Araya grabbed the edge of her crate and held on tight. Outside the viewport, a slaver warship glided into view, its dark hull bristling with weapon turrets. It cut across their path, ready to block the Nightingale's escape. Cal's fingers flew over controls. We can't outgun them, he said, but we might outsmart them. Fenra joined him, voice steady. Give me a moment to jam their sensors. Sirian moved to stand between Araya and the viewport, as if bearing himself against the threat. Cal engaged the Nightingale's stealth drives. The freighter shuddered as energy diverted to the shields. Araya felt the warmth of power coursing beneath her feet. Fenra tapped into the slaver ship's comm channels, sending false signals to its targeting array. They're searching for us on the wrong vector, she said. Cal grinned. Good work. Sirian held Araya's hand. You are safe, he whispered. But Araya, whose royal training included lessons and star charts, remembered the constellations. Beyond the slaver's sensors, she pointed at a faint nebula on the holoscreen. Turn toward the violet cloud, she said. Cal's eyes widened. That's brilliant, he said. It's thick with ion storms. Their scanners won't work there. Within moments, the Nightingale veered toward the nebula. The warship opened fire, but its blasts fizzled against swirling energy. Violet tendrils of charged gas danced around the freighter, masking its signature. The slaver ship, frustrated, fired blindly, then lost track. Cal engaged the jump drive and flung them into the void between stars. In the sudden silence, only the freighter's hum remained. Sirian exhaled, lowering his blade. Fenra wiped her brow. Araya, trembling with adrenaline, hugged Sirian's leg. Thank you, she whispered to them all. Cal offered her a small, crooked smile. You saved us as much as we saved you. As the Nightingale drifted on a safe course, Cal opened a small compartment and found a packet of sweet spice cookies. He handed one to Araya, who bit into its warmth. The taste was foreign but comforting. Sirian and Fenra shared a quiet laugh, relief lighting their faces. For a moment they allowed themselves to rest. Araya closed her eyes and savored the cookie, picturing her palace's orchards where people gathered to celebrate life. She thought of those left behind, and her resolve strengthened. Later, Cal plotted the next jump. Orcs 3 is to gates. Away, he said. His tone was serious again. But we must be careful. The Royal Council may not welcome a stranger smuggler. Sirian bowed his head. We understand. We will deal with politics later. Araya stood and faced Cal. You have given me hope and safety, she said softly. For that, I thank you. Cal's sharp eyes softened. Your courage guides us. Princess Fenra put a hand on Araya's shoulder. Soon you will stand on your home world again. Araya looked out at the stars. Her journey was far from over, but with friends at her side, she felt ready. The Nightingale leaped toward its next destination, carrying a princess who dreamed of freedom and of the day she would free her people. Princess Araya watched the pale glow of the Lycos gate from the freighter's viewport. The massive ring of metal and energy spun slowly against the backdrop of distant stars. She felt a flutter in her chest. Home was so close, yet she knew danger still waited. Sirian stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. Fenra and Captain Cal Davis worked at the nav console, plotting a safe path through the system's customs lanes. Araya's violet eyes reflected the gate's light as the Nightingale drifted toward its final test. The Nightingale approached a patrol station shaped like a star with long arms reaching into space. Armed ships docked and undocked, and scanners probed every vessel. Customs officers in dull gray uniforms moved along the station's hull, checking for smugglers and fugitives. Sirian checked his blade's edge one last time. Fenra reviewed the forged clearance codes on her datapad. Cal cleared his throat. We have one chance, he said. We slip in under a neutral cloak, then cut power and drift into the gravity well. Only then can we jump to Orcs 3. Araya shivered. She did not like this part. She missed the safety of Vendrix's hidden outpost. She missed the warmth of the broken dreams hall. But she breathed deeply and nodded. She would be brave. For her people. For those still in chains. She folded her small hands in her lap and closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they shone with quiet resolve. Sirian smiled. Princess, your courage lights our path. Cal guided the Nightingale toward the station's far side, staying in the blind spot behind one of its long arms. The freighter's hull hummed as the neutral cloak activated. The ship's lights dimmed, and the energy signature vanished from the station's scanners. Inside the hold, Araya held Syrian's hand tightly. Fenra monitored the scanners, her brow furrowed. "We should be invisible," she whispered, "but the patrol drones sweep this area every 3 standard minutes." Cal studied the timer on his console. "We have less than 2 minutes to pass through." The Nightingale glided along the station's beam, its shadow masking them. Drift engines engaged, and the ship coasted without power. Araya felt the ship slow until it was almost still. Syrian knelt beside her. "Princess, we will jump the moment we are clear. Stay calm." Araya nodded. Her heart raced, but she focused on the constellations that her royal teachers had taught her. She spotted the 3-star cluster that marked the Orcs system. It steadied her spirit. Outside, a patrol drone swept down the station arm. Its searchlight probed the darkness. Syrian signaled Cal. Cal flicked a switch. The Nightingale's shields shimmered with a faint blue glow. The drone's beam struck the freighter's hull and slid off harmlessly. Fenra's eyes lit up. "Shields hold, but the drone is converging on us." Syrian rose, blade in hand. "I will draw its fire." He moved to the viewport and activated a small emitter on his belt. A pulse rippled outward. The drone's sensors glitched. It searched elsewhere, then hovered uncertainly. Syrian gripped Araya's hand. "Hold on." With a whispered count, Cal fired the jump drive. The Nightingale lurched as space folded around them. Araya felt a sudden weightlessness, then the familiar tug of new gravity. When the light returned, they floated above Orcs 3's orbit. Below, the emerald planet glowed with swirling white clouds and blue oceans. Araya gasped. Tears of relief rolled down her cheeks. Syrian dropped to one knee beside her. "We made it," he said softly. Araya reached out to touch the viewport, as if she could feel her home through the glass, but relief was short-lived. Cal's console lit up with warning lights. "We're on military frequencies," he said. "They've detected our arrival." Fenra studied the readout. "They're sending fighters." Sleek starships appeared around the Nightingale like angry hornets, their weapons locked on the freighter's hull. Araya's heart fluttered. She had trained for danger, but here, above her own world, she trembled. Syrian tightened his grip on her hand. "Stay behind me." Double quotes. Cal cursed and punched the come line. "This is Captain Cal Davis of the Nightingale. I request permission to land at Orcs Station. We carry a royal passenger." Silence answered him. Then a calm male voice said, "Identify the royal passenger and provide clearance codes." Cal glanced at Fenra. Fenra brushed a lock of hair from Araya's face and spoke into the mic. "This is Princess Araya of Orcs 3, sole heir to the Crystal Circlet. We have official clearance from the Royal Council. Codes Alpha 439. Outside, the fighters paused. Syrian watched the viewport, ready to defend. Araya waited. A tense moment passed. Then the voice returned. "We verify your codes. Land on pad Delta. Disembark immediately." Cal exhaled. He guided the Nightingale toward Orcs Station, a large wheel of glittering metal in geosynchronous orbit. As the freighter docked, Syrian stood before Araya, bowed his head, and whispered, "Soon, you will see your people." Araya straightened, her silver hair falling over her shoulders. She looked at Syrian, Fenra, and Cal. "Thank you," she said, "for bringing me home." The hatch opened, and light flooded the hold. Armed security in gleaming white uniforms stood ready. Syrian lifted Araya into his arms. Fenra and Cal fell in beside them. Together they stepped onto the platform, where the gates of Orcs Station would open to a future of freedom and hope. The streets of Orcs Station buzzed with activity as the royal party disembarked. Syrian carried Araya gently, while Fenra and Cal followed close behind. The bright lights of the docking bay reflected off polished floors. People hurried past, some pausing to bow as they recognized the princess. Araya felt a mix of relief and purpose. She had returned home, but her journey was not over. A royal carriage awaited them, drawn by silent hoversteeds. Syrian set Araya down and addressed the guards. "Escort the princess to the Crystal Palace," he said. The guard saluted and guided Araya inside. Cal and Fenra watched as the doors closed. Araya pressed her hand to the cool glass and whispered, "Thank you," to her friends. Syrian bowed. "We will meet again," he promised. Fenra nodded. "May your reign bring justice." Cal placed a hand over his heart. "Farewell, princess." Then the carriage swept away. Inside the palace, Queen Marana and the royal council gathered in the Hall of Mirrors. Each mirror reflected a part of Auris's history: peaceful harvests, grand celebrations, and voyages among the stars. When the carriage arrived, the hall filled with dignitaries and advisors. Araya stepped forward, her silver hair framing her determined face. She offered a deep bow to her mother and the council. Silence fell. Queen Mirana spoke first. "My daughter, you have returned at great cost." She motioned to Syrian and Fenra, who stood at the edge of the hall. Araya's violet eyes met her mother's mother. "The cost was necessary. Vendrix hides sufferers of slavery. I have seen their pain." Some council members whispered among themselves. One elder, Lord Corvin, frowned. "Your Highness, Vendrix is beyond our borders. Why risk our people's safety for strangers?" Araya held her ground. "Because the bonds of freedom connect all. If we ignore the suffering beyond our gates, we ignore our own values." Lord Corvin tapped his cane. "We cannot stir war with slavers for sentiment." Araya took a breath. She recalled the faces in the outpost, slaves who yearned for hope. She glanced at Fenra, who gave a firm nod. Then Araya spoke, voice clear and calm. "We stood by when Sorvak's raiders sold me. Tomorrow, others will suffer the same fate. I propose a rescue mission. We send ships to Vendrix to free those in chains." The hall erupted in murmur. Queen Mirana raised her hand. Silence. She turned to Araya. "You speak bravely, child. But this council must decide." Araya bowed again. "I accept any consequence, but I request permission to lead this cause." The queen studied her daughter's face, saw steel behind her gentle eyes. At last she nodded. "So it shall be." The council members exchanged solemn looks. Syrian stepped forward. "Your Highness, with your leave, I will gather crews and supplies." Araya placed her hand on his arm. "And I will stand by your side." The next morning, the palace courtyard shone under two suns. Crews loaded sleek transport ships with supplies, rations, medkits, and tools to break chains. Araya moved among the workers, helping to pack crates. Despite her royal garb, she lifted sacks of grain as if she were one of them. Cal arrived with the Nightingale's crew, offering his freighter's hold for supplies and providing tactical advice. Fenra oversaw security, her scars a reminder of past battles. Syrian mapped the flight plan on a holo-table. As the fleet prepared to launch, Araya climbed into the central transport. She looked at the faces of volunteers, warriors, healers, engineers. Some had once been slaves themselves. Araya felt a surge of pride. "Today," she said softly, "we bring freedom." The volunteers cheered. Syrian took the pilot seat. Cal joined him as navigator. Fenra checked the final systems. Araya settled beside them, her heart steady. The ships rose in unison, leaving Ori station behind. Araya watched the crystal spires of her home fade into the distance. She thought of the Broken Dreams outpost, the children who laughed at her flower petals, the exhausted faces who found courage in her smile. Now she sailed again toward Vendrix's storms, but this time as a leader. Below them, the planet Vendrix glowed with purple storms. Araya closed her eyes and whispered a prayer for those held in darkness. Syrian laid a hand on her shoulder. "We are ready." Princess Araya nodded. "Then let us bring light." The fleet slipped into the storm, each ship cutting through charged clouds. Araya felt the shudder of the atmosphere, but her resolve did not waver. Together, they descended toward the outpost's hidden valley. The time for rescue had come. Araya stood at the viewport, ready to free others as she had been freed. That storm raged around them, but inside each heart burned hope. And so, under purple lightning and distant thunder, the princess and her allies prepared to change lives and shape a future where no alien would be sold into slavery. Again the fleet plunged into Vendrix's purple storm, each ship's shields glowing faintly against the charged clouds. Princess Araya stood at the view of the lead transport, watching the rocky valley below come into view. She felt her heart race, but her resolve was steady. Beside her, Syrian checked the holomap one last time. "We enter through the hidden pass," he said softly. Araya nodded. She remembered the path Fenra had shown them. They would land just beyond the outpost, where the slaves worked in the open fields. Cal Davis guided the Nightingale above the valley rim. "We have 3 landing zones," he said. "Zone Alpha is closest but most exposed. Zone Beta is safer, 2 minutes further. Zone Gamma is quiet but steep." Araya looked down at the fields dotted with shackled figures. Slaves bent over workstations, unaware of the coming rescue. She met Syrian's eyes. "We choose Beta," she said. "We must balance speed and safety." Cal set the course. Fenra readied her gear and checked the comlink. "All units, prepare to deploy," she ordered. The transports descended through swirling winds. Araya held Syrian's hand as the ship jolted over gusts of ionized air. Below them, the outpost of Broken Dreams lay battered but still standing. Its scrap huts clustered around a central tower. Syrian steadied Araya as the transport touched. Down on rocky ground, the hatch opened with a hiss. Fenrir led the way, rifle in hand. Syrian carried Araya over the threshold and set her down gently. "Stay close," he whispered. Dot around them. Volunteers leaped from the transport, moving quickly toward the slave fields. Araya followed Fenrir to a small control tower where the slavers kept their records. Inside, 2 guards slumped over desks, bored by the endless paperwork. Fenrir crept forward and pressed a silencer beam against one guard's back. The guard froze, then slumped quietly. The other guard looked up, alarm in his eyes. Syrian burst in and knocked him unconscious with the flat of his blade. Araya helped lift the bodies out of sight. The control tower's door clicked closed, but Fenrir's fingers danced over the console. With a beep, she disabled the field collars on the nearest 20 slaves. Outside, the fields lay in organized rows. Guards with blaster rifles watched the workers. One raised his weapon when he saw the first freed slaves dropping their collars and stumbling back. At that moment, Syrian and Araya emerged, flanked by Cal and a squad of warriors. The slavers aimed, but Cal fired a flare overhead. Its bright light and loud cracks startled the guards. Syrian called out, "Freedom!" The warriors charged, disarming the slavers quickly and without bloodshed. Araya stepped forward, her voice clear. "You are free," she said. The slaves paused, disbelief in their eyes. Then they tore off their collars and ran toward her. Araya knelt and embraced a weeping woman whose tentacle-like hair glowed in the street. "You can go home," Araya said. The woman nodded, tears shining. More slaves gathered, each looking to the princess with hope. Syrian and Fenrir directed the volunteers to escort them to the transports. Araya moved among them, offering gentle words. "Be brave," she told a trembling child. "We will protect you." The child clung to her gown, then let go and ran toward freedom. Sorvax trackers, alerted to the disturbance, arrived in 2 fast ships. They hovered above the outpost, their weapons primed. Cal shouted into his "Watch the sky." Syrian and Fenrir turned to face the valley entrance, but Araya stood firm. She raised her small hand. "They will not harm my people," she said. Her words carried over the field, steady and calm. At that moment, the rescue fleet opened fire, with warning shots into the ground around the trackers, forcing them back. The slaver ships spun away, unable to aim at civilians. With the immediate threat gone, the transports lifted off, carrying freed slaves into the storm. Araya lingered, waiting until every last person passed through the ramp. Then Syrian lifted her aboard the lead transport. She looked down at the empty fields, silent now but for the echoes of hope. Fenrir closed the hatch. Cal engaged the engines, and the fleet banked away from Vendrix's surface. Inside the hold, the rescued slaves huddled together, exhausted but smiling. Araya moved through the group, offering blankets and rations. One former slave pressed a small carved ornament into her hand. "For you, princess," he said. Araya took it and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. The ornament was made of purple stone, shaped like a rising sun. She tucked it inside her gown as a reminder of their shared courage. As the fleet cleared the storm, Araya stood beside Syrian at the viewpoint. She watched Vendrix recede into the violet haze. "We did it," she said softly. Syrian put an arm around her. "We did," he agreed. Fenrir and Cal joined them, faces tired but proud. Araya looked at each of her friends. "We freed them," she said, "and we will bring them home." Cal nodded. "We will find safe worlds for those who cannot return." Fenrir smiled. "And Vendrix will know its people have allies beyond its storms." The transports fell into formation behind the Nightingale. Above them, the stars shone bright and free. Princess Araya, once sold into slavery, now led a fleet of liberation. As they set course for Ori's station, she dreamed of the day when no alien would suffer chains. Her journey had begun with rescue, but it would continue with hope and a promise that humanity stood for freedom across the galaxy.